To us about fake news.
So there's a lot. Fake news was a phenomenon that was brought into the world sphere quite a while ago. And we know that one of the individuals who talked about fake news and who still continues to talk about fake news till now is the President of the United States, Donald Trump. And fake news as an idea basically is that, there will be information that is spread, information that pops up at us, and you not really sure what it is, but because it finds its way into media, you're likely to believe it without doing any kind of research or further investigations. Now, fake news has also reared its head when it comes to the conversations that we have around COVID. There's been so much that has been said, and it was easy for this to be perpetuated because of the fact that COVID still, even till now, is quite novel. There's a lot of information that we don't have about it. There are things that change on a regular basis. So unfortunately, then it was very easy to spin narratives about things that maybe were based on just a little bit of fact as opposed to complete truths. And this has found its way and has nestled quite permanently in the minds of very many people. Mm-hmm. So there are things that you will unfortunately now not be able to tell anybody about COVID, for example, which may be the truth vis-a-vis the idea that they've already put in their minds. So fake news has already rooted itself when we talk about COVID-19. But unfortunately, there are consequences to this. And those are some of the things that we want to look at this morning.
There's a story that was published on by the BBC on the 12th of August that at least 800 people may have died around the world because of COVID-related misinformation in the first 3 months of this year. According to researchers, in a study published in the American Journal of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene, 5,800 people were admitted to hospital as a result of false information on social media. Many died from drinking methanol or alcohol-based cleaning products. They wrongly believed the products to be a cure for the virus, and the WHO has previously said that the infodemic surrounding COVID-19 spread just as quickly as the virus itself, with conspiracy theories, rumors, cultural stigma all contributing to deaths and injuries. So it's not just a Kenyan phenomenon. It's basically a global thing.
It is.
Where people are drinking methanol or alcohol and saying, because they have read somewhere. And remember, even we've had callers here calling and saying, I have heard that if you do this, and the other, you and COVID, you cannot get COVID. All that information spreading on social media, especially remember in the first 2 months, all these WhatsApp forwards from, certain doctor who worked in India and then went to China and is the one who did what in China, and then he came back and he was saying, if you do this, and the other,
you'll be fine.
Yeah, if you sleep, I don't know how many hours a day, and you drink how many liters of water, and then very, very many of these stories.
What is significant about it is that it is deliberate.
Deliberately spread by?
Deliberate misinformation.
Explain.
You see, for something to be fake, it means there must be something real that counters it or contradicts it. There must be something that is not fake. So something may have happened and it can be reported exactly as it happened. And then something can be reported with a twist. It did happen, but not quite the way to be presented. Now, if it's deliberate, then essentially someone is misinforming you. Deliberately giving you information that is not true.
Twisting it.
Yes. That is one of the elements that makes this information fake. And now in the 21st century, the information age, when the avenues through which you can actually purvey information are so vast and so varied, it becomes really easy to reach any segment of any population that you want to. You just need to target them and even understand what they would lap up, and you direct it. And it'll hit home.
Choice of the word lap up doesn't go unnoticed. Does this mean that this person does not have any way of verifying this information? Or is it that they are too gullible to the source of information that, as long as it's CT who said this, I believe them, and therefore I'm going to follow what they said?
There's that, but there's also information that already meets a certain threshold that you already have of expectations. There are things that people are already primed towards understanding or believing or accepting. So if that information tends in that direction, they'll take it in very easily without too much questioning.
And even better, if there's somebody that they look up to or accord some kind of respect who then says it, they're likely to go with it.
Case in point, if you look at some of the discussions we've had around the issues in this country
Yep.
that have been in the Senate for this long, and the spillover has been the story of marginalization. And marginalization is being touted and being spoken of as though we got independence last week. And because that independence which we got last week, there are very many things that haven't been done.
Yeah.
And so marginalization is as real as it was,
in
1964. Yes, and now 63. That's not true. Fake news. It's not true. A lot has happened since. Yes, there was all that. But currently, you cannot make a statement and speak as though nothing has changed and everything has remained as it was. Now, I'm giving that as an example because it strikes me. Fake news. When the government tells you, we are going to, please listen carefully, we are going to increase the price of fuel, but we're doing this so that we can cushion you when the price of fuel becomes volatile. You're making it volatile.
By saying that alone.
Yes.
I guess when it comes to fake news, the thing about it is everybody thinks that it's only the other person who can fall prey to fake news.
Yes.
That they cannot fall prey to fake news.
Yes.
But also, they do not interrogate the news that they consume themselves.
No, or news that appeals to them, or news that meets whatever
They
need
take
that
it
they
that
have.
way.
Yes.
There are very many organizations in the country and in the world that look at the authenticity of information. One such organization is called Africa Check, and Africa Check just basically does that. It checks any information that is out there in the public domain, fact checking, and fact checking is actually a very big thing in information consumption, because people will come in and throw in words and figures and say, for example, in the 2019-2020 budget, we spent 3.67 billion shillings, 3.67 billion in taking directly to 125 families across the country. And just because someone has said that, you're like, now 365 billion has been spent. You take it up and follow it up, right? So organizations such as Africa Check are the ones that go back and say, wait,
Start again.
Where? True. Is there any other information that relates to this that could show that this is actually the case?
That can help us corroborate this, yes.
Is there anything on government records that can show this? Is there anything in the community that can corroborate this information? Let's speak to the editor of Africa Check in Kenya. This is Alphonce Shiundu. He's joining us on the line and also on video. Good morning, Alphonce.
Thanks, Latif. Good morning. Hi, CT, and hi, Ndu.
Hello.
Good morning. Happy to be with you.
Thank you.
Dude. Yes.
Welcome to the Situation Room, Alphonce.
Thank you.
We'll also shortly be speaking with a Kenyan blogger, internet entrepreneur, cyber activist. Those are the words that he uses to describe himself. Robert Alai, and Robert is also on the line. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, Eric. Good morning, Ndu, Alphonse, and CT.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Robert.
Let's start with you, Alphonse. We have talked about fake news and the way people like to just take up CT's word, lap up this information. What is it that makes people just see information and consume it as is?
So for what we are seeing specifically for COVID-19 is a lot of the information that people are lapping up. Thank you, CT, for that word. A lot of that information is people are looking for hope. People are looking for something that they can hold on to. They know very well, and it's been announced by everyone, WHO, CDC, KEMRI in Kenya, and the ministry, that there is no cure for COVID-19. But then you keep seeing these messages that there is a cure that is coming. So you do lemons and garlic, or do turmeric or something like that, and ginger, and then you will be fine. So people become somewhat reckless because they understand that there is that. They are hopeful that it worked for somebody. So some of it is being spread by public figures, for example. You remember when it was still too early in the day with COVID-19, and Mike Sonko comes up with food packs for the poor people, and these food packs had Hennessy.
Yep.
And he uses, like, official information is a sanitizer or
alcohol based.
yes, alcohol-based sanitizer with 70% of alcohol will help you will help kill the virus. So, and he says you drink Hennessy and it's gonna sanitize your throat.
Yeah.
And him being a public figure, so people tend to trust public figures. So it is not just in Kenya. So in Uganda, we have the Ugandan speaker who that's Rebecca Kadaga, who also makes similar claims that there is a Musoga here who has discovered the cure and it's gonna be here in 2 weeks. And then people think, oh, now we have a Ugandan with that. You go to Tanzania, the president says his own son had COVID-19. And what did he do? He was doing herbal steaming, kujifukizia. So with blankets and all, breathing warm steam and drinking lemon water and ginger and all those concoctions. And he became fine.
Yep.
In Madagascar, the president comes and says, oh, there is this COVID organics. And you have countries running to him for the cure. Yet at that point, there is no evidence for that.
Yeah.
So when there is that, people are looking for hope, anything to hold on to. And then we also have public figures misleading their flock. It's funny, up to date, we haven't had the religious leaders, because that's also one of the places where falsehood spread based on beliefs, where religious leaders give you water or oil and tell you that this is the cure for whatever disease you're going to get or whatever disease you're going to have.
Yeah.
So that is the spectrum of reasons why we think people are likely to believe false information. And lastly is when this false information is sent by people you are related to or people you trust. So the situation in Kenya and the situation in most of Africa, what we are seeing is in the parents send their children to urban centers after they have gone to school. They go to look for jobs in urban areas. So everybody comes to Nairobi. And once you are in Nairobi, when you send something back home, you say, I got it from the internet. And for most of the folks here, WhatsApp is internet or Facebook is internet. So when they see something on social media, they are going to say, oh, I saw it on the internet and it's true. That's why you find aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters in the villages forwarding new information which is manifestly false and provably false.
Yeah.
But because they got it on the internet, they come back and say, oh, I saw it on the internet, so it must be true. It was sent to me by my son in Nairobi or by my daughter in Nairobi. And the people of Nairobi know more than we do in the village. So that's the kind of thinking that we have. And that way false information spreads.
And on traditional media, because of the basic regulation, the code of ethics, the code of conduct, you may find that there's a lot of fact-checking and even seeking to verify information before it spreads. But like you're saying, the internet, it's where information goes and it catches on like fire. Somebody who thrives on the internet, like Robert Alai, let's bring you in now, Robert, because you've seen this kind of information, the way it spreads. A simple, basic one, how to wear a face mask. And then this whole SMS goes around with if you have symptoms, you wear it this way. If you don't have symptoms, you wear it the other way. And this one has been verified by a lady who is a doctor, who's being quoted here is Dr. So-and-so. She's a doctor. It spreads. Why is it so easy for it to happen, Robert?
I think with the nature of the internet is that it has democratized the media. So it's very easy for a nobody to get the devices and basically be very influential. So now you're told that the most powerful media is not a blogger, is not a journalist, but an individual with a smartphone. Yeah, so basically they can reach millions. A small issue with maybe somebody with 1 follower or 2 followers can post something which is believable from nowhere, and people can get to engage it. But I have an issue because there's, apart from the spread of the fake news we are talking about, I don't know how fake news is, and also considering that in philosophy there's relativism. And in relativism, fake news, something which is the truth is not. There's nothing like absolute truth.
It's relative.
So nobody holds absolute truth over anything. Even the scientists, if anybody had the truth on what coronavirus is and how to treat it, we'd have basically we'd have medicine now. We'd have vaccine and we'd have medicine to cure it. Everybody's still trying to understand what this thing is, and that's why some countries are putting a blockade, some are not putting a blockade. So it's very funny outside there, and there's a great lot of funding also around the fight for the spread, the fight against the spread of the fake news, misinformation, and things like that. There's a lot of funding here. So even the organizations which are coming up to curb the said fake news are questionable. Who vetted them? You find that it's one platform which decided that so and so is going to get the funding for the fake news. Who checks the checker? Yeah, who is going to gauge on their authenticity, their objectivity? And I had a great issue with one Nigerian doctor. I didn't agree with her, things like there's a prophet who is speaking to her, but she was making some sense. She was talking about drugs which she said she has tested on her patients. But no platform, not Google, not Facebook, not Apple, not Twitter, they were able to give her the platform to share her views and to be vetted by the public, to be engaged and to be asked questions, tough questions, because the internet is very democratic. You will be asked tough questions if you're talking about something. If you're saying something which people don't believe, they'll tell you off, and you'll not last long. I don't believe that the platform's role is to cut people they don't agree with, is to bring one side of which is called the absolute, the official truth, and then shut everybody else down and say that you cannot spread this thing because it's not been proven to be true, but it's not been proven to be false also. Yeah.
So Robert, are you saying essentially that something which starts out as fake news, if then given a platform upon which this information can be verified, it can actually change from fake news to being a reality?
What do you mean it started as fake news? Who branded it fake news?
This is the thing, because the minute it comes out, what did we have the other day, for example? The other day, the Russian president said that they have a vaccine.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah.
There were doubters who sprung up immediately and branded it fake news.
Yep.
Isn't it?
Yep.
Yes.
Without having been given a platform for them to prove. But the Russian president, Putin, went ahead and said that certain things have given them the credence to then say that this thing is actually working. Come to Russia, all ye in the yonder and buy, right?
Yeah.
Now, something that could be deemed as fake news in the beginning, in the lifeline, can then actually become the reality. Is that what you're saying, Robert?
Yes, I'm trying, because who has branded it fake news? Because I am telling you, the people who are branding it fake news should not be considered, the holders of the absolute truth, the guardian angels over ourselves. I think we need to let science, I believe in science very much because I'm a scientist. I believe in science. I don't want a situation where we are going to throw theories, but also science. We depend on listening to others. What is your logic? What are you saying? If you're saying that the vehicle's wheels have to rotate front for it to move front, how do you call that one? How do you prove that actually the various dynamics are going to work to make the vehicle move faster in that direction? So we engage and you listen to science from location A, science from location B. We listen to the Chinese, the Americans, and the Russians. So the best way for the Russians, for the people to deal with the Russians, was to give the Russians a platform.
Yeah.
Let's share the evidence, the specimens, the tests they have done. Let's listen to them. But now it looks like people don't even trust if the Chinese today brings out a vaccine.
But the question one would ask, Robert, is who would not trust the Chinese?
Why?
I don't trust the Chinese on very many things. Especially the low quality products sometimes they bring. But let me say, on science, we need to listen to every one of them.
Yeah.
Because there are aspects, even some of the phones we call the premium phones we use, we still have to depend on Chinese. So there's an aspect of China which is very good, which is the production economy. Even the scientists, they're not so bad off. They are well ahead of everybody. You have seen with the claims, even the 5G, which you're going to talk about, is also related to the COVID and the fears against 5G, the mask, and what it's going to do to the human body, things like that.
Yeah.
So I think that we need to engage the truth and know that the truth, nobody has absolute hold over it.
But I think we get to a point where we are misusing the word fake news as well. If, for example, today the President of the Republic of Kenya stands up and says there's no COVID-19 in this country, and he says it's because we have not seen any person who has tested positive, and he declares there's no COVID, and then Uganda decides, that is fake news. Does that qualify as fake news? I would guess that is news that has come from an authentic source who has given the reasons why they are making that information. That doesn't make it fake news per se. It just means that they could be giving information which is
true to them.
Fake news, I think, in my definition, would be.
Eric,
Hold on. Fake news here would be where, for example, I go and say that Uhuru has declared Kenya COVID-19 when Uhuru has done absolutely nothing of the sort. Now, there I'd be spreading fake news. I think you see the difference. For example, when a president of Russia comes out openly and says, this is a public announcement, this is what we've done, we have gone through the scientific rigorous testing, we have declared that we have a vaccine and it's going through testing. When Western media or anybody goes and calls it fake news, that is a wrong application of the word fake news, I think. Don't you think?
Yeah. I think it's the wrong application of, and it's happened even regionally. You've seen the issue with Magufuli and the Kenyans. The thief at the border. Apart from the big issue about the ego thing, you realize that when the coronavirus started, Magufuli was very categorical that they don't believe it, they don't have it, they don't. Sometimes when the Kenyans did the testing and say that we have found 50 Tanzanians crossing the border to be positive. Magufuli said, no, the Kenyan version is fake because their test process is corrupt. So how do you say the Kenyan president is saying one thing, the Tanzanian president, these are two presidents.
Yeah.
So you have two sources which you are calling credible, and they are disputing each other. So which one is fake? Which one is real? And that's why I say that the best place to gauge this thing is on an open platform. The issue, again, you realize the Kenyan president, there are pronouncements he has made, and when you see the public furor over one issue, and he has gone back on his word, then the organizations which are fighting fake news comes and say that it's fake because the president of Kenya said that they didn't say that.
I would ask you, so must something be totally fabricated and made up for it to be fake news? Or even if it has, say, a drop of or two of something suspect, then it becomes fake news?
Fake.
Yes, or is it something that I disagree with because this platform is really broad? Or if I disagree with it because I have an alternate view, then it is fake. At what point does it actually become fake?
Yeah, and Alphonse, I think you can even answer this, Alphonse.
Yes, we try as much as possible not to use the term fake news because we understand it as a misnomer because news is supposed to be accurate, news is supposed to be reliable, verifiable, and something that is based on proof or evidence. But so when you say fake news, we don't use that term. What we try to do, because, and you have seen, and I think that's the question CT is asking, at what point, and Trump has proven that if he does not agree with something, he labels it fake news.
Yeah.
There are people who don't agree with something, they label it fake news. There are people who, when they don't want to interrogate something, they label it fake news. So we use the term, at Africa Check, we use the term false information quite a bit. So that's the term. We say something is false or something is unproven or something is correct. So how do we get to these conclusions that it's correct, it's false, it's unproven? When we have evidence that, verifiable evidence that back something up, we say that is correct. If we don't have the evidence to prove or either prove or disprove, we say that that is unproven. And that has been the case with a lot of COVID-19 related fact checks. So whether to wear a mask or not, that came as a kind of debate. In the early days, people were like, if you're not sick, don't wear. But then as the evidence emerged that you were supposed to wear a mask because of the asymptomatic patient, then that advice was updated. So as fact checkers, we could not get into this binary field of where we label something as false or not in a situation where there's evolving medical evidence. So our main job is to put the facts out there as they are, so that when you're reading and you're trying to understand what to do, then you have all the information that you need to know whether it's for your own good to wear a mask or if it's not for your own good to wear a mask. So that is, well, we try to use the best possible research we could get. We try to use the best scientific advice we could get from scientists who are actually working on COVID-19 related research. So that is and we acknowledge the limits of our evidence and the gaps in the credible proof. We would say that, but there are gaps here. And we would explain it to our readers that so far this is what we know, so far this is what we don't know, and we're going to assist you to make this information available.
When we come back, Alphonse, we'll need you to answer the question that Robert Alai asked. Who checks the checker? How do we know that you are authentic? How do we know the reason behind you putting yourselves up there as the checkers of this information? This is something we also must discuss as well. This is a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation, coming up to 8:30. Let's take a look at what's happening on the skies and on the ground and the roads. And then we come back to have a conversation with Alphonce Shiundu. He's the Kenya editor of Africa Check. And Robert Alai, blogger, internet entrepreneur, and cyber activist.
Yeah, Alphonse, I'm trying to understand. So now here we are, and I think different things remain realities to different people. So at what point are you checking when some new information comes out that resonates with something that was a reality to you? Let's look at the ginger lemon story as an example. And we even had the Ministry of Health coming out very categorically and stating that, you know what, there's been no proof to this yet. What we're asking is that you remain using the measures that we have told you about. However, to somebody who's had a shot of lemon, ginger, and honey every day of their lives for the last 6 months, the reality is different for them, that they have been healthy. So my question is, how then, when presented with a new piece of information, at that point, based on the hope that you've talked about, you're not really thinking, is this scientifically proven or not? You're thinking, hey, something that's going to give me some hope and I'm going to run with it. How then do we secure ourselves? How do people secure themselves from any kind of dangers or consequences when the reality for them coincides with this new piece of information that has come out?
Yes. So that is something we are still trying to figure out, how to reach people who believe something because it has worked for them, yet that thing is not proven. So there are two things here. So the first thing is the person is believing COVID-19 is believing, say, lemons as a cure for COVID-19. Yes. So this person, when you tell them it's not a cure for COVID-19, all it does is it boosts your immunity. So that is the explanation that we have to give them. That all it has done is to boost your immunity and given your body the stamina, to use that word, that it needs to fight off the diseases. So it's making you. That's why it's making you more healthy and unlikely to be attacked by the usual viruses and things like that. Other aspect of that question is people believe the stuff that they work for them. So when you come with the accurate information, there is a cognitive dissonance there. they are looking at it and like, how do I reconcile what I know for a long time that I have been wrong all along?
Right.
Yes. So there is that. And a lot of things are like around COVID-19, around the new coronavirus, has been fed by misinformation, like Hini Homa 2. So if it works for flu, if it works for the common cold, it should work for coronavirus disease.
Yeah.
So that is also something that we're struggling with, to tell people COVID-19 is different. It's not your usual flu. It's not your usual common cold. And the people who understand that distinction are taking the fact checks seriously. Then there are those who it works for me, so it works for Magufuli's son, so Magufuli should be doing something right, and so I think it's going to work for me. So that is an aspect that we, as fact checkers, getting people to believe what the truth is, that is something that we really struggling the fight. The other thing that I just have to point out regarding this specific situation is when we checked Magufuli, when he said that if you do herbal steaming, you're likely to get better from COVID-19. And his claim was, if you steam at 100 degrees getting into your body, it's just going to make coronavirus disintegrate. So our position was to go out and tell people, okay, guys, steam at 100 degrees Celsius, it's very hot, it's going to scald you. So if you're going to do herbal steaming, just do your herbal steaming, but just know if you're going to use steam at 100 degrees, that's dangerous. It's going to scald you. And there are people, there's a scientist we contacted in Japan who has done research doing steam therapy on alcohol and steam therapy on water, like steam. And then his view was that it doesn't, even at 70 degrees, it's still dangerous for you. And then at whatever temperature you inhale steam, the body will cool it. So it's not like when you inhale at high temperatures, it goes through the body at that high temperature. It's going to get cooled as it goes on. And they also pointed out that if you expose yourself to more steam and it burns the hairs on your nose, and then it makes your nose dry, then the possibility of viruses getting in becomes much higher. So it's that science that we let people know. But now the Tanzanians who read the piece came back to us and they were very angry. Their view was this was a geopolitical article, and we ought not to have said we're just beating down Magufuli because he's an African.
Yeah.
And he's an African who's come up with something that worked for his son. And so we should believe him. That we have no, we shouldn't.
How dare you question him?
How dare, yes, something like that. And we're pointing them the dangers. So that is the reconciling their thoughts, their beliefs, their knowledge up to that point, even if it's based on false premises. That has been our biggest headache on getting people to trust the evidence that we present to them.
Which demographic of individuals would you say consume this product that you have?
The demographic, okay, so we would say we have a varied number of people who come to us to ask this question. So we have a WhatsApp line and on Twitter. So we invite people to ask us whatever, if they see disputable information or if they see something that is likely to be false or they want verified, they will send us the message on WhatsApp. They will send us contact us on Twitter, shoot us an email. So the people that we're seeing mostly are young people who are sending us this information. And we also see, because most of them tell us they are looking for ammunition to get back at their aunties and uncles and mothers in WhatsApp group and their parents in WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
So that because they forward all manner of things, and they are just looking for something credible to tell them, hey guys, this guy worked on this, and this is the proof they have given. Look at the people they have spoken to. This is the caliber of people they have spoken to. This is what those people have said, and this is the research that those people have done regarding this specific matter. And so this is what the evidence says. So what this advice that you're putting here is not true, or it's not proven. So we should not trust it. We should not believe it up to this point. So that's the kind of community that we get.
That you deal
from, yes, and we do that. Then we also have researchers who are interested in finding out the depth, and so a quick way of finding in-depth information about a very specific granular claim is just to read our work and see where that leads.
Robert, so Alphonse and his team go through the academic and scientific way of fact-checking. As somebody who has influence with a great following and a lot of influence on the digital platforms, do you also do the same? I mean, when I'm sure there are people who will forward you a lot of information, even on WhatsApp. Robert, umesikia hii? Or is it true? So, what do you respond to those?
We try. Which, at this stage, it's not like I started blogging almost 15 years ago. And so at this point, you understand that I am not any other person who doesn't have, because being in the field so long, it means that you have a lot of sources. And, most of them are very well placed. So for me to post something, I'm not perfect. But basically, at least like any other media platform, we'll have our weaknesses. Even the most rigorous checking. You saw CNN, whoever, BBC, they have all fallen to this. They have also made mistakes along the way. Yeah. So I think we make mistakes, but my problem is that the sudden influx of everybody is doing fake news. Personally, I've been approached by 3-4 organizations asking me to go into the fight of the spread news. I say that me, I'm a publisher. That's not my work. I'll not be.
What would be the import of such, Robert? What would be the import of you spreading this? What is the intention when somebody comes and says, "Do this for us"? Is it to counter another popular narrative? Is it to make people sway in a different direction? What would be the reason why somebody would come and approach you, for example, and say, spread a story about COVID-19, which is not the truth?
Everybody has an intention. If it's a lab, maybe the lab wants to make money from the tests. So if it's government, maybe it's stop fear for their own policy. Because, COVID has also been a very great tool of political manipulation. It helps some supporters fight their enemies easier than when the COVID-19 didn't exist. Now it's very easy to break a rally and say that you cannot meet because there's COVID. It's become a very tool. But you need to check if you're going to talk about scientists. We have talked, the Science magazine is wondering why Africans are not suffering as much as it was expected. New York Times says that fake news is the new potent tool of censorship. You see, the University of Memphis, Yale, whoever, Reporters Without Borders, they have asked that the predators of freedom, the press freedom, use fake news as a censorship tool. And, you can read all these reports. It's suddenly cool to be an organization fighting fake news. We need to ask ourselves, the best way to gauge anything which is going to be spread on the internet is to let the internet, the platform users, you are going to listen to you, Eric Latif, the influential people in your practice in the media. You are not going to listen to Robert Alai as much as you would listen to editor in news station A, B, C, D.
True.
You know your sources. So everybody has. Sometimes people call them echo chambers, but you know who gives you the right information on a particular field.
Yep.
If you're going to listen to Robert, you say I can listen to him on this, but not on this. You see. So and that's how the internet usually works.
I see what you're doing, Robert. You're bringing in that activism on the democratization of information, and okay, so there is space for that.
No.
But also at the same time, saying that's what you're saying, that everybody who gets information now wants to brand it as fake news, as a way of gagging this spread of information.
We have a lot of fake news, but when the COVID broke. When the COVID broke, and we agree they exist for COVID, when it broke, we alerted the government to what it was not doing right. What did the government do? It was arresting everybody. Say COVID, and in the cells we are sleeping in, the same government, you are sleeping in the cell, which was jammed, and we took photos. Jammed, you could not even stand in one place for so long. So you're asking, are you fighting COVID? In those situations, a 5 meter by 5 meter cell has 60, 70 people. You could not even sleep. Then you say, what are you fighting? Are you fighting it this way? It was. I don't know who is the authority now. And people have even questioned the WHO, but you still have to rely on WHO as the authority on health. We have to listen to them. You have to listen to their warnings because they are the global body. The global community needs at least a global, check on this. But I have an issue with these individual organizations, the briefcase organizations everybody has formed to now fight fake news. There are censorship, and the biggest issue I have is censorship. We can disagree on anything, but when we start muzzling everybody who disagrees with us, then the internet does not become democratic again. When you see the platform saying that they cannot spread video A, B, C, D because it has not been declared truthful, then who declares them truthful? It's us to gauge and say that, these doctors who are bringing... There's a very big conversation. You remember the video...
Robert, yes. Wait. Before you go to the platforms, let's go to your own platform. Yes. I mean, you've got various channels through which you communicate information to the public.
Yes.
When you receive information from anybody and they have a way of reaching out to you, do you verify that information before you post it?
I do. Basically, I do. That's the most basic thing to do.
So any of your platforms would not carry information just because you received it?
No.
Okay. And it's the same thing, for example.
The intention of the source, yes.
Wouldn't you argue that it's the same way that Facebook, for instance, would look at, there's this lady who claims that she's a doctor, who claims that she has healed very many people using this particular medication. But as a platform, we know that the trusted sources for us are these particular doctors, these particular institutions. And if those institutions have raised questions, then we also do not allow this information on the platform. Is it not the same thing? Mark Zuckerberg,
but
Robert Alai doing the same, fact-checking and gagging.
Basically, Facebook is different from Robert Alai. What is Robert Alai doing? Facebook is a platform. Is basically, in fact, Facebook without the people is a shell is a software. It doesn't have its own editor. It doesn't have people going to the field to look for information. It doesn't have its verifiable sources. We are asking the people that are now calling fact checkers, how did they become fact checkers? What platform did you? Because they are now global. They're checking everybody. Facebook and Google and Twitter and Apple's platforms, they're different from what Robert Alai is doing. We are a publication. You see, so we are different from what Standard Media is doing. Standard Media has its own news team which is going to verify information. If it's agriculture, health, what you have all this team you're going to be using, but Facebook is just giving you a platform there. You sharing it. One time it's a dating platform, other time it's a news platform, another time. But now they have a new aspect of information, authentication. They're calling it fact checking. What is the fact?
So, Alphonse, who
Because
checks the checkers? And I think that's a question now, because anybody can raise that question and say, okay, so you're bringing this information that it could be true or false. Where are you getting your information from? Who checks you?
All right. So, okay, let me just quickly give a short history of fact-checking in the world. So, before the fact-checking was itself an offshoot of journalism, there was a lot of misinformation going around. So there was Snopes in the late 90s, and then in the early 2000s, there's something called First Draft News. All this is US-based. Now, in 2012, that's when Africa Check was started. And a lot of the work that we've been doing is fighting misinformation. Mm-hmm. So we are in 4 countries, in publishing in different languages: English, French, Zulu, Kiswahili, Wolof, Hausa, and Yoruba. Now, what we do as Africa Check, over the years, we have developed a very transparent methodology on how we do our work. We do not, for example, my background is a journalist. I worked as a journalist for, I think, 12 years. So in journalism, it is okay to use anonymous sources. In fact-checking, it's not. Because when we say that something is not verifiable, when we say that something is not backed up by evidence, we show you why, and we show you the steps so that you can follow yourself and see if we are fudging the evidence or not. So if we speak to a scientist, we give you the name of the scientist and the affiliation, and you can contact the scientist yourself to interrogate their evidence. If we cite a paper, if we cite scientific research, we put it out there. So that is the aspect. So we're so big on transparency in the way we publish our reports, so that if somebody is keen to question it, then they can see what we have done and the processes that we have followed. Now, who checks the fact checkers? So before you become a fact checker who's verified and who's doing the checking on the platforms, so Facebook, Google, there is the International Fact-Checking Network. It's called the IFCN. So it's a global body where all fact-checkers get in, and every year we are verified. The verification means they look at our processes, they pick our reports at random and look at how we did the report. They check our sources of funding so that we are not being funded, we are not getting funding to push a certain agenda. They look at whether, so our job is to put some honesty into public debate. So the IFCN would look at, are we partisan? Are we so much against, are we checking one side of the political divide so much? Are we sort of trying to push one side away? So that is the kind. So they have all these criteria on the transparency of the methodology, our non-partisanship, our independence, our sources, the transparency on the sources of funding, and we have to declare this on our website, so that if somebody is visiting our website, they see how much we got from funder A, how much we got from funder B. And because we understand fact-checking is big business, I was reading an article which says truth is expensive but lies are free. So they were just looking at the good information where newsrooms and newspapers, credible organizations were erecting firewalls. Now, with fact-checking, as at Africa Check, our work goes out and we try to make it accessible, because we understand false information travels far and wide quickly. And so to counter that, we also try to be reasonably fast to respond to this information. And the algorithms on the platforms have made it easier for us. So if somebody saw false information and they shared it, when we check it and we find that it is false, then the algorithms alert them that, hey, there is this new information that has been checked. It's been found to be false. You had shared it. Can you have a look? Yeah. So the aspect of censorship, it's not that we take down false information. We don't. That's the platforms decide whether they're going to take it down or not. But the circulation, the algorithms kick in and decide that the false information has to be dropped down. We do not go out there to look for false information. People report these on the platforms. And then once they report the algorithmic signals on the platforms, which push content that is likely to be false to the fact checkers. And then the fact checkers look at that and check for accuracy. If they find it true, well and good. They say it's true. This is backed by evidence. If they find it's not backed by evidence, they say it's not backed by evidence.
And they finish it at that.
Yes, and they finish it at that. So the platforms come in and they warn readers. So if we check something and you want to share false information or you want to read, the platform will tell you, this has been checked and found to be false. Do you still want to share it?
Do you still want to continue doing that?
Yes. Yeah.
Alphonse Shiundu, we want to thank you very much for speaking to us. Asante sana for everything that you've done. And then thank you also to Robert Alai, who is a Kenyan blogger, entrepreneur, cyber activist. Robert, it's you who has some jogo near you.
Yeah.
The jogo, we want to thank you and the jogo for speaking to us this morning.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm in the village. I'm trying to encourage Kenyans who are jobless in the city. Please don't despair in the city. Don't be jobless. Don't commit suicide. I've seen a lot of depressing mental health issues because of COVID-19. Please come to the village. If you have a small shamba, grow the maize, grow sugarcane, grow cotton, whatever. Try to find something you can do in the village.
That's great advice.
Healthy.
That's great. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for speaking to us, and we wish you a great day.
Thanks, Laji.
Thank you.
Thank you.